living in different countries, Uganda, Australia, Kenya, Tanzania, India, UK, Mexico. I interacted with different people on a personal level in work as well as a professional level. You meet different people. In the hotels, you're served by different people. In school, your cooks come from different cultures. So in order to, because I grew up a Christian, I was born into a Christian family and of African origin. I'm an African Christian. And one would wonder of what relevance is that? Well, it informs one's philosophy of life. And in connection with that, first of all, I believe that God is the owner of creation. He created the world. The world belongs to Him. He is Lord. We may have people with Lord titles, but they don't own this world. He created the world. He is Lord. He is present everywhere at the same time. He is more powerful than anyone else. He is the owner. He can see the visible as well as the invisible. So therefore, my belief about metaphysics starts from that God owns this world. He owns everything that's in it because He created it. God has no time limit. He was there from the beginning. Even before the beginning, He was there. He is God. And that is very important because it keeps me very sober, knowing that someone else is in charge of this world. Knowing that the person who's in charge of this world is also someone whom I can call Daddy because He is God. This is a very sobering thought because I've lost very close relatives in the last 2 years. And it's important as a Christian and as an African Christian that I talk at this point about my philosophy of life. I believe that human being is body, soul, and spirit. The body, which is this physical receptacle, is just a vessel to carry my spirit, but it's also a vessel to carry me around this world. I'm very aware that the physical realm of life is real. The spiritual realm of life is real. And in the spiritual realm, there is the good and the bad. There is the forces for good and there are the forces for bad. But let me start with the body. When someone is born, the Spirit of God is in them. God breathed into us. We have a spirit in us. And that spirit lives in us, but also lives on after we have gone. Human beings have emotion. We have intellect. So therefore, we have a body, we have a soul, and we have a spirit. When we die, it's the body and the soul that cease to exist. The body we put into the ground or gets cremated, but the spirit lives on. As an Africans, we believed in the living dead. I believe there is the living dead. The Bible talks of the living dead because it asks us, why do you mourn like people without a hope? Yeah, when we know that the person's spirit live on. And therefore, I believe that our spirit existed before we were born, but it will also exist after we are born, after we've died, because then we have to stand judgment. And when you just stand judgment, you stand before the Lord, your spirit dies. So when one dies, their body is buried, but even while we are still slaughtering and eating meat and buying plane tickets to go home, the spirit is already being judged, and we have to answer for what we've done in this world, good or bad. That is a very important starting point for me because there is a lot going on. There's a lot that was going on, and there's a belief that traditional African religion was primitive. That traditional African religion, because a lot of it wasn't documented, it was rituals, that it had no meaning. What is documented as the Bible is a tradition. A Jewish tradition. We had a tradition and we had a religion. Our grandfather Gorma in Africa, African tradition, we did not distinguish between our religious life and our political life. It was one. It was one. There were people who were the elders, there were the mediums, there were the people who offered sacrifices. But everyone followed the same religion and everyone respected God. We respected God's nature. We did not just go killing animals the way we are. We did not just go chopping down trees the way we are. The fact that we may sit down to pray under a tree was to bring us all to focus in an area. We were not worshipping the tree. We were not giving sovereignty over life to that tree. Sovereignty belongs to God. And therefore, we have to respect our African traditional religions. Modern religions, they go to a church. They pray facing the altar. What's wrong with me facing a tree? If a tree is what we have, people don't need to spend so much of their money to build a church. A church is good. It looks good. But when Jesus died, he said that we will be able to pray to him from wherever. And therefore, that's for people's individual choices. But it's also very important to respect spiritualism in African traditional religion. As a born-again Christian, I lived in the same place in Arena Estate in Kisumu, where I grew up, spent some of my childhood years. And this is why I want to tell you how important it is in the 21st century that we respect that. We have this thing called Nyawawa. Nyawawa came as a very big sound, which I can only equate with the Passover night. It is a Passover night of sorts in Nyanza, where people in Kisumu, and I know it because we lived through it. You hear sounds like a big, strong wind, and inside the sounds there are people screaming like people who are in agony, and the sound would come from up one side called Kondele. I don't remember very well whether it came from Kondele and down towards Kano or the other way. As children, we grew up, we were told that where we lived, this flat plain called Kisumu, was a major battleground between the Luos and the Kalenjin. From what I remember from our oral history, they say that wars that were fought by Luanda Magere against the Kalenjins was because when the Luos came to live there, the Kalenjins were already in that area. So there was a very heated battle, so there was a lot of blood lost. So the sounds we are hearing in Nyawawa are actually the sounds of the people who were screaming in agony as they lived, their spirits. All around our area in Arena, people were Christian. I know because we all went to different churches, different denominations, but everyone went either on a Saturday or a Sunday. A few went to the mosque on Friday, but most of us prayed. But when Nyawawa came, people knew that night. So sufurias were washed early. You know, our sufurias, when you cook ugali in them, you have to leave them with water overnight. But somehow that night, the sufuria didn't keep water in it. It was used. So as Nyawawa came, people hit on the tins. You had to hit a tin so as to escort those spirits away, so that they didn't pray evil on you. So we'd done that all our lives. So I thought, when I became a Christian, I thought, God, you're omnipresent, you're omnipotent, then you should be omnipotent over Nyawawa. So then when it came to our turn, I turned up my praise and worship music. I prayed to God. I laid to rest the spirits of the ancestors. I said, you will not touch me and my children. We need to sleep. We are going to school tomorrow. I'm not staying up late to hit my sufuria. And we slept. And we slept very peacefully and nothing happened. But I respect the spirits of our ancestors. They've gone before us. They made us who we are. But we don't need to worship them. And I can only say that that is true because of what I have experienced and what was handed down to us. Africanus.